Um, let me turn down on here in no particular order. Uh, we had Peter, I know, was here last year, I think some of the other folks that we've had over the course of the day were also. But we have run this CAS Showcase differently, in that you folks came up after every single one of these briefings and provided some real-time reflection. I think that is an improvement over the way we did it last year. I think that your ideas were fresh and directed, and you were a lot more targeted in terms of the feedback, which I haven't asked the PIs so much, but I believe that they saw value in getting that very personalized approach. However, what was missing is your ability to look back across the day and give some thoughts on things at a macro level or a holistic level that I'd be interested in hearing from you right now. So with that quick preamble, do you have any kind of integrated thoughts or comments that you'd want to share in terms of the breadth of the material and the topics that you heard about today? Any reflections before we break and go over to the space bar? So
yeah, well, I mean,
either one.
I would just throw out some observations that clearly there's a lot of breadth in the material that was presented today and the projects, and that's intentional, right? That's a part of what CAS does.
Exactly.
Part of the way I think that today worked well is that the presentations, while confined to 15 minutes, the presenters took what started out as a wealth of content and information and distilled it down to a message that everyone in the audience can go home and remember, sort of the 2 or 3 key takeaways from each of these. And so while the message was reduced and simplified, everybody has the beginning of a sort of mental tree of understanding of what these projects are about, and therefore what their impact could be or what their next steps could be. And coming out of a day like today, we have a number of objectives that are served by communicating this information. There are people from the commercial side who are interested to understand what is the type of research that's going on and what can be brought out into the commercial world, what is ready, what has a few more years of research ahead of it. There are constituencies within NASA that everyone is looking at, okay, well, what is the path forward for this research? What goes next? And how does this research integrate with other activities that are going on? Where are those points of collaboration? So to me, today was about communicating about these things in a common language in a way that everyone can gain something, everyone can understand, at least at a basic level, such that with interest, they can follow up in a meaningful, actionable way. So yeah, there's a big breadth of material. Some of it is very focused towards one given application, such as aircraft propulsion or the efficiency thereof. Others are more generally applicable research in computational materials design, energy storage, or how we might leverage quantum computing towards a wide variety of different things. But I mean, just off the top of my head, I think that as a starting point today was a good way to accommodate communicating about that whole range of different types of material.
Beautiful. Thanks. Byron.
Yeah, so broadly I would say the same. Very impressed with all the material, understanding the DNA of the organization, that it had a certain slant to it. But what I found was that if interested, I think a lot of the things that people are working on could be applicable in other areas, not necessarily just focused on aircrafts and transportation and so on. And I'm always a firm believer that these research-focused organizations produce a lot of really good stuff. Very often, unfortunately, the link with the commercial side is limited for whatever reason, and otherwise you can find significant benefits in the application of those technologies.
Right.
So I think the approach you're taking is a good one in opening that up, and hopefully some of the feedback was useful, because when you tend to do research, you tend to be so laser focused on that, you sort of forget about
Yes.
where is this applicable and
Yep.
so on. But yeah, in general, that was my feeling, that there's a lot of applicability of the technologies, and each one had many elements. In fact, you probably got that with my questions, that in some ways I felt it might be better to simplify it a little bit to start with, right? In each of those, that might be something to think about in your programs is, can I simplify this problem a little bit, reduce the variables, make it somewhat more well-defined, and then build from there once you get those results, and once you've proven something, then move on from there.
So interesting your comment about the applicability to to other industries or other problems is the part of the reason that we call this project Convergent Aero Solutions, because we appreciate that sort of interface with other disciplines and other industries is going to be critical to solving the complex challenges that we've got in this space and other spaces. Yeah. I mean, you kept bringing this back. As I was listening to your questions, it was frequently, if you scale this down, I mean, I could use it in this application, or others talking about scaling it up. It was a matter of where this could touch other industries and other problems in different ways. So that's clearly by intention. And system level has been part of our approach to dealing with this. So we want to be taking on complexity in those challenges that bring in multiple challenges. But your point's still, I think, well taken. Have we maybe at times bitten off more than we could or should chew on some of these things, and there would have been value in taking a little bit smaller bite?
Yeah. Alternatively, you could be sitting on a solution already or very close to it and not realizing it.
Well, and
That's another way to look at it.
in part, which again is why we want to make sure we're bringing in people and voices and ears from these folks that do see that much better than we do. Again, as engineers, in particular as research engineers, there's always that other 5%, 2%, 1% that we can drive to get that better solution. And 85% could be damn good, and we're not seeing it, or enough of it. Yeah, great. Jimmy, I mean, you're here. You're a little different face on the panel, but given where you more recently come from, I'm glad that we had your voice here today. What are your thoughts?
Couple of different things, and I'll echo the comments we just heard. I thought, first off, having seen not just the two that I was up here for, but all of them, I thought all of the speakers, without exception, did a really nice job of explaining very complex material to an audience that may not know your subject. And as a consequence, I think that's one of the reasons why you still see a room full of people at the end of the day, is that we were able to get it and we were able to track it. Because we can't be experts in everything, and some of us aren't experts in much of anything. And so when you look at it that way, but I can still follow what's going on, it's really refreshing. But I'll take another step back, which is to say, and in order to be able to do that, you have to understand what you're talking about at a level deeper than just the equations, right? And understanding that impact is something that we miss a lot of the times, and I thought that was really refreshing. I also thought the format was very interesting, and the questions that we heard all day from the panel that has been up here, I thought were intriguing, because a lot of times it's really easy to get lost in the details of our research. You're the world's greatest expert in X, and it's really easy to get down in the weeds of X and forget about all of the other things in terms of convergence that are adjacent and come together around it. And then when you hear the other thought processes going on, it allows you to kind of bring it up a level and think about the impact that you're having from a different perspective and a different scale. It also allows you to think of the other things beyond just proving the technology, but how do you transition it into something that an industry partner or someone else can actually use? Because the business considerations are often more important than the technical considerations. And if we don't, at least we, NASA, can't solve that. But if we don't at least think about it so we don't make it unsolvable, then we can really end up doing not as much as we'd like.
Right.
And but I thought this format and this ability to ask these questions really provided an interesting opportunity to take a little bit better look. And I thought all of the speakers handled that really well.
Good, thank you. One of the things that I want to take just a moment to address, it actually came out as a question to Jay Dreyer and me at the very first panel that we had, and if I'm recalling correctly, and Jay, maybe you can help with this as well, but it was a question that pretty much said that there's a lot of good work that they were seeing, or they just heard in that briefing. What is the mechanism and the process that ARMD is putting in to try to find a way to make sure that within our own portfolio we're identifying the right home for it, or providing enough investment funds in order to keep these things going at the right level. And I mean, it's a fair question. It's one that we've struggled with a while for CAS, but I'll answer it in a way that reflects the value that we're getting from our industry partners here at the table and out in the audience. A big part of what we are trying to do is to provide opportunities for our work to be identified for the value it can bring to more near-term product lines. And our job fundamentally in NASA Aeronautics on the research side is reducing risk, right? It's exploring, and it's looking for new concepts and maybe even some disruptive concepts. But even within that, it's reducing the risk to taking that to the next level for some value as product or value in terms of tech transfer. So as these activities are completing their year and a half, their 2 years or so with their work, that final assessment we want to make is how well have we reduced that risk. And if we reduce that risk to the point where, and I think this panel and others may have heard in some of the briefings that, boy, there's something here that we may be wanting to take in reasonably soon, then I say that I wouldn't be looking for ARMD programs or projects to take that in to mature it more, because people are trying to pull it out of our hands. But if we can get the relevance from that industry community to say this is good stuff, and perhaps the risk isn't quite as low as I would like to see, then there is an opportunity for NASA Aeronautics across programs and projects to take a look at that and say, okay, how can we provide that additional value of risk reduction, a level of risk reduction, by providing some additional investment within a mission program in order to take it that next couple of TRL or whatever that level is, such that industry is going to see the value. Because again, we're about providing opportunities and risk reduction for our industry here in the U.S. So I'm not sure if that gets to the question as it was posed, but it was the way that I think I'm looking at this. Now, I'm in the seedling program. I'm on, in transformative aero concepts. It's folks like Jimmy and Jay before Jimmy, but at the mission level, Ed Wagner and Akbar Sultan, our other mission program directors, that would be looking to take that on. But I'm being one of those guys. At one point in time, I think that's a pretty consistent view. So Jay, I don't know if you wanted to throw anything more on that.
I was going to say, it's actually, I think, part of the panel I'm on tomorrow. I was going to address it some then, so
good.
Now or then, whatever's easiest.
Okay, now hey, forward promote. I like that. Tomorrow morning, be here, and you can hear Jay provide his view on that. So thank you. Okay. So again, looking back at the panel, any other last thoughts as we put a close on this for the evening, for the day? No.
Not really.
Here,
Happy to help, and glad to be here. It was
our pleasure.
a very
Sincerely.
enjoyable day.
Yeah. Good. Good.
I think
Thank you.
It's been a great event so far. So.
Excellent. And again, looking forward to another half a day plus tomorrow with that. So Isaac, please come on up and take us home.
Yes, thank you to the panel. And I'm gonna say, I don't wanna keep us here a little longer than we have to, but I have to say a few words. First of all, I'd like to thank you all the PIs that were tremendous presentation. They worked very hard in preparing for this. They got some training. We were trying to make it, like Jimmy was saying, just be clear to the point, and it worked out well, I will say. I also I also like to thank the panel to be here and giving the feedback to them. I thought that it was a tremendous, to me, it was a tremendous opportunity for the PIs to get a little bit outside of their comfort zone when they ask questions that were asked. Like sometimes in CAS, we always promoted where the concept works, where the concept doesn't work, where it could be applicable. And so some of the questions that the panel made was to push them to answer those type of questions. So I thought that that was really, really good. And we at least I thought that that was good for the PIs and good for us also that are not completely expert in the area to say, hey, we need to start thinking that way or this other way. So I thought that was very well. So thank you again to the panel. Thank you guys for being here. Tomorrow we have a very interesting half day, and then we have tours in the afternoon. We have a list over there that please sign up if you haven't signed up for some of the facilities here at Ames. So please do so, and we have the list in the back. We are gonna close now, but I'm gonna say some announcement for the reception this afternoon. We're gonna go to building 3, which is just, as you get out, you continue in the road, and it's building 3, and there's a cafeteria. Anyway, if you're walking, it's like half a mile or so. There will be soft drinks served, and also there will be some appetizers to there, but it closes at 7, so we can only be there until 7 o'clock. So I welcome everybody to be there and join those, and we can have other discussions, questions that we have, and so forth. Okay.
And we start at 8:30 tomorrow morning.
Yes, and we start tomorrow a little bit later than today, 8:30 sharp, and again, there will be a panel. Like Jay mentioned, we're going to talk about RMD, convergence and transformation. RMD, we're going to listen about our system programs, T-Cube and ULI, and the PMs were here. They're here. And so we're here about that tomorrow. And then we'll have 2 guest speakers, 1 keynote and 1 guest speaker. So it will be a very interesting morning. And then the afternoon will be the tours.
And
so we'll see you all tomorrow morning, 8:30.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.